Hey, I think we're live now, ladies. Well, we're about to be. Hey, good morning, good afternoon. Depends on where you are. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening for some people. Um, I'm talking today about a subject that people really don't like talking about, and I'm sorry, but I just have to do it. I just had to do it. It's all about funerals and dramas, life dramas, because we tend to, as people, we tend to leave everything till last minute. Well, you know what we're like. We get dressed last minute. We do everything last minute. So of course, people really don't sort themselves out properly. They don't say, "Okay, let me get a will," for example. And then when if they die quickly, there is never there's just never ever an organized thing. Like Auntie Joan is saying, no, she just said she like red. She wants to get buried in red. The daughter is saying, no, she said she wants to get buried in green. And it's a big old family bust up and pure argument. So I want to talk about that. And more so, the thing why I invited my two guests today about to talk on this show. I think it's not always that we could do laughter and jokes. Sometimes we have to be a bit serious. And so I've got somebody who talks about finance. I'm going to get them to introduce themselves in a minute. And a funeral. I don't want to call her a director. I think she's all things funeral. All things funeral. Ask her anything if she knows about it. So I'm going to introduce my guest. The first person, of course. Maybe I'll start off with the one that I've known for the longest because she's been following me since Pride, and that's Charmaine Simpson. Say hello, Charmaine, and tell people about yourself. What do you do?
So greetings, everyone. So my name is Charmaine Simpson. I do a number of things. I also run Black History Studies with my husband, Mark Simpson. We've been doing that for the past 13 years, teaching Black history and Black studies in the community. I'm also an economic graduate. Um, Went to study university a few years ago and finished with a first class degree in economics. I've always been interested in financial education. So I'm also a personal finance coach and a financial educator where I go out into the community educating families about money management, protecting your assets, wills and trusts, making your money grow, all different aspects of money management and financial education. So just like to say thank you, Sherry, for inviting me on this show. Yes, I have followed you for a long time since Pride days, and I was like, when you called me up, I was like, oh my gosh, getting all fangirl based, and I was like, yeah, I need to come and speak to you. So yeah, so thank you
Well,
for calling
Paul
me.
Lawrence, I saw you on Paul
Yes,
Lawrence's show last week, and I
yeah,
was like, oh God, you're talking about all the things I'm talking about next week. So I found you anyway.
yeah,
And of
excellent.
course, there is the
Mhm.
wonderful Maxine
Yeah.
Edgar Mitchell, or vice versa. I'm never sure which name is but one is the name that she does for Facebook, and one is the name that is a marital name.
Mhm.
Tell people about yourself, honey.
Hi everyone. Hi Sherry. Hi Charmaine.
Hi.
Thanks for the opportunity, Sherry. I deem it a privilege to be sat here working with some greats. My name's Maxine. Yes, all things funeral. Yes, I'm a funeral director. I have my own funeral home. Um, I'm a funeral celebrant. So, a funeral director deals with the dead, the funeral celebrant deals with the living. We project manage funerals, we work with the families, we present funerals as a celebrant. With the dead, we project manage funerals, but we deal with the body and the ceremonies. Yeah. I have a passion for the living and I have a passion for the dead. And I have a passion for my community. Yeah, that we learn to do things correctly because these behaviors have a ripple effect. Yeah, they have a ripple effect on our families, our nearest and dearest. Yeah, they have a ripple effect on our lives. They have a ripple effect on my business, Black businesses, when we are. I'll talk about it later on, but when we're trying to present ourselves as professionals in a racist industry, it has a ripple effect. So it's important that we talk about these things, that we are educated, and I am hoping to learn from Charmaine this afternoon. So thank
Yeah.
you.
Well, I'll be the instigator, and I want to, the people that are listening at the moment, please realize that I'm based in the Caribbean. I'm in lovely sunny Guyana, but we do have these issues on Sundays because I suppose everybody is either online because they're at church, or they're chatting to family. So what happens is that sometimes we get, surge, and the line may cut off. But whatever happens, my guests will keep on talking and I will rejoin them back. We did that last week. We don't mess around, it's just, that's just the way it goes. It happens. We don't have a panic about it. We just get on with it. So
Yeah.
let me start off by saying why I wanted to do this show. I have heard, I don't like funerals, I have to say, I really don't. And I understand that there are people like me that don't like it, but it doesn't mean that other people don't. But if I die, somebody's got to organize what I want. How am I going to go? I can't just sit in this chair forever and ever. Sorry, something's tickling me, probably a mosquito. I can't sit here forever and ever. So somebody's got to bury me. But have I got things together? And the other day I was thinking, when I heard Charmaine and Paul talking about this, I was thinking, yeah. And then I heard when Chad died, Chad, as if I know him, died, they were saying that he didn't leave a will. And I was thinking, are you joking? Somebody at that level, for some reason, we expect that they should have a will done. And then I realized, well, mine is only part done. There's papers put in place, but part done. But there are many people who really don't have wills. They don't put their affairs together before they get too old, and they leave their family to deal with their issues. And because they leave their family to deal with issues, it might not be big money. It might just be the teapot that has been handed down for generations, or a family picture that somebody feels should come to them, or rings or earrings, whatever it is. You're supposed to say who you want to get those things, but instead they leave the families to fight. And I have heard so many tales. I laugh, but it's not funny when it's happening, of people fighting at funerals because of the issues that have gone on. And I'm like, fighting at funerals, but I've heard it too many times. So let's talk death and wills. Death and wills. It's not going to be my favorite, the subject. The people are going to back away from it, but they need to learn to deal with it. Some people just can't talk about death, and I understand that. So let me start off with you, Maxine. Maxine, you've done so many funerals. You have done so many funerals. Tell me, what are the things that people don't do? What are the issues? You must have all the do's and don'ts.
I think number one, and I'm talking to our community now, yeah. There is a reluctance to talk about money, I find, and there's an unhealthy relationship with money that we have. And when I have the funerals, when I have the families come in, the pattern seems to be the same in every situation, yeah? Don't get me wrong, this is not exclusive just to our community, to Black people, yeah? But it manifests differently, yeah? The pattern seems to be the same, i.e. late payment. Well, we don't have, everyone has to give a bit, which I don't mind. Can we get this a bit cheaper? There was no will, died intestate, yeah? Okay, lastminute.com. Family feuding. I think I've done, and I'm talking about money now, forget about any other type of feuding. I think of all the Black funerals that I've done, I think there's only been about 3 where there hasn't been a financial feud going on. I have seen coffins drop. Yeah. And the argument, the crux of the argument has been money. I remember the first time I was, not the first time I was a celebrant, the first time I conducted a ceremony as a celebrant. And there was a feud going on. A gentleman got up in the crematorium in the midst of my dialogue. I want my brother's Marvel comics.
Huh?
My brother's Marvel comics. He has a collection of Marvel comics, and I want them. That the woman that he's got over there has got my brother's comics. Yeah. I'm telling you, you made reference. It's not just a financial thing. People argue over a cardigan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is really real. It's bad. I mean, I did one a couple of months ago, quite a big funeral, and what had happened was that the gentleman had been with his lady friend for 20 years, and she was 20 years younger than him. He was 80, she was 60, and it was a genuine relationship.
Mm-hmm.
He had children from a previous marriage. Unfortunately, when he died, unbeknown to them, his lady friend was his wife. And it was only on his death, when the daughter tried to freeze his bank accounts, that she learned, oh, well, no, you can't, because your father has a wife. And had to ask, I mean, the marriage certificate had to be sent via WhatsApp. You know, they were so surprised. He didn't leave a will, but in that, he left the woman in a mess. She had his money and she freely, you know, was willing to bury him, but the children opposed it. We want to know what's going on, and what about the property here? And it was awful. It was, I mean, you know, when you looked at the funeral, it was amazing. But what actually went on underneath, until now, everything's going public, you know, and it's this unhealthy money thing that we have, that I believe we are still slave-minded in our thinking, in our relationship to money, because before, let's say, religion took a hold, you know, Black people were just waiting to die and be with the Lord, because that was the alternative to the horrendous life of slavery. And I think it was it Booker T. Washington said, when you meet a white bloke, he's going to, you know, make money and create businesses. And you wait for meet a Black person, they're just waiting to die. And that's, you know, you grow up in order to be with the Lord, because he's going to take care of everything. When we think that not too many generations back, we were slaves, and we are still singing a similar song. You know, he's going to take care of it. It's only that some of us are more alert to the reality that, well, yeah, we might take care of it, but, you know, I'm in my 20s now, and he might, you know, I might have to wait another 70 or 80 years before he takes care of whatever he's going to take care of. So that's the reality of where we are, and it's quite bad. So it's not just a case of you know, the feuding and the fighting, but the relationship with money, where there are parents, and I'm sure Charmaine will confirm this, where they don't want to talk, they don't want to tell, they'd rather tell a stranger. Yeah. You know, and you're, you know, how do you approach a parent? And these are questions that I'm asking as well. You know, well, you know, what about your finances? Oh, you want me dead? You want to finish me off? You understand? It's like you're between a rock and a hard place. So these are some of the questions. Why? You know, why don't we talk about it? Why can't we get our house in order? You ask them to borrow you 100 quid. They don't want to give it to you in life. Oh, leave it. Let them fight to obey it. But you approach them in life for something they don't want to give you. So it tears families apart. I've seen it. It tears families apart, and I still can't get my head around it. So these are some of the questions. And again, you know, I have no issue with the GoFundMes. I actually don't. I think it's wonderful, and I've seen it when people die and the community comes together, you know, and puts together, and they have their halls and they pay for the funerals. I have no issue with that. But when you want to go fund me so that you can have a hall for £10,000 for drink and music, and that kind of bothers me. When you say to the client, can the individual afford to bury themselves, or are you going to apply to the DWP? Oh no, we are going to go to the DWP car, we know no money, you know. And then they want the horse and the cart. They want the £2,500 casket. They want the 4 limousines. They can't afford it, but you must give it to them at a cut down discount price. So these are the issues that we need to be looking at. And you understand what I'm saying, Charmaine? And
Yeah,
how
I hear you. Trust me. I hear you.
you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I had one lady, and I could talk, you know, I could talk about this for so long. I had one lady, you know, she was dealing with an estranged member of the family's estate. And she questioned me for months and months. And the first question I always ask, because I feel I have to, can you individual afford to put themselves? Have they left anything in place? Either they have or they haven't. So I will price accordingly, and I will work with you. You understand what I'm saying? And this person, oh yes, it's fine, it's no problem, I'm going to go to the bank. We ended up giving the individual the cheapest funeral going, but they paid me more or less the day before the funeral. And really, I should have said, no, we can't do this, because I'm a small concern. 7 days beforehand, I like everything in place. I don't like this last minute, not on my watch when I'm responsible. Yeah, you do what you want to do outside. And really, I should have said no. And it was an absolute joke, because everything was wrong. Everything was wrong. The height of the man was wrong. He couldn't fit in the coffin because I collected him the morning. Absolute chaos. And it was all over money, because there was no money. You know, and this is what I say, when you're trying to present yourself as professional in front of these white people, because the funeral industry is a white industry.
Very white.
Yeah. And when they see us coming, they see us coming. You understand? And oh, here they come again, late again. You know, so these are the questions I want to ask. This unhealthy relationship that we have with money.
Yeah.
I think it needs
I'm answering some of the questions online as we go along, so don't think I'm ignoring you.
Yeah,
I spent the whole 15 minutes just shaking my head, because I just don't understand that. How can you find the money the day before? You know, wouldn't it have been better to put the funeral back by a week or something? You know, whatever. I don't know these things, if it's that easy. But let's talk. Why stick to that? Maybe because the party and all that was organized. Charmaine.
Yes.
Charmaine, you talk to me now. My belly's hurting me because I can't believe.
No, I believe, because when Sis was talking, I was like, yes. So in my life, because I've experienced death at a young age, I think I have a different outlook on death, on life, because I've had I had cousins that died young. I've had family members that have died young. So I've grown up knowing what death's about. So some people don't want to talk about death, but because I experienced death at a very young age, and I had to deal with it at a young age, I have a different outlook on life. So that's why when people come to me, they're like, oh, Charmaine, you're full of life, because I recognize that our life is limited. Our time on limited. Live your life to the fullest. So when Sis was talking about funerals, I remember going up to Birmingham to a funeral of one of my cousins, big man cousin, and driving up to Birmingham. And I remember being in the church when there was big fight broke out in the church, big Rasta man fighting in the church, pastors like there, my aunts, big cousins going, no, then he got to the gate,
not really laughing.
I'm flying all over the place, everybody cussing, and I'm saying to my dad, what? And then I remember driving back going, Dad, what was all that about? And he was explaining to me that sometimes people get caught up in their emotions, but this is what happens when you've got families from different families all broken up, they're not communicating with each other. And Sis said it, the money is one of the biggest thing when it comes to funerals and even relationships. We've had experiences with business partners blackmailing us over money, and they had to move over money, and people switch when it comes to money. Even when you don't have no money together, the thought you have some money, they want it. Now, I have seen so many family members and friends going through difficulties and I've seen it, like Sis said, the head of the family, mum or dad, is keeping everybody together. soon as mom and dad dies, oh my gosh, everybody switch. Everybody's fighting over this. Mom said she's gonna leave me this. Dad said you're gonna leave me that. Then they're fighting. Then the adults are fighting. Then the cousins get involved. Next minute, cousins are fighting when they stab up each other. Madness. You need to stop that. And I say to people, as a financial educator, just put your items in place. Put your things in place. And sometimes you have to have those conversations. So when I started getting into my financial coaching journey, I had to ask my parents. I said, Mom and Dad, and I didn't want to do it, especially my dad, because we're very close. I said, Dad, have you got life insurance? And he was like, no. Someday we need to sort it out because this is what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. We need to have life insurance. Have you got a will? No. Let's sort out the will. All of these things in place. Like my mum as well. She just thank God being diagnosed. She had cancer, now she's cancer-free now. And she had to explain to me, listen, well, you need to get life insurance just in case, because I'm not leaving that burden to you. Now, I'm lucky I've got parents that have these conversations. There are some parents, when you talk to them about putting life insurance in place, oh, you try to kill me off. You want to take our money? Yeah? And they say that. Literally, I've said that. And I've done presentations where I've had parents, they come with their child and they're like, you know what, child, well, I'm dead. You lot deal with it. And I'm like, look at how selfish.
That's not a selfish.
Does your child have £10,000 plus sitting in an account waiting for you to pass away so you can hand over that money? Because I know what happens. Because argument say the head of the family, your mother passes away. Yeah. Mother said, then you've got a budget. But everybody else, all your brothers and sisters say, oh, but mom would like this big casket and this horse-drawn carriage and the be released and all of this. Then, especially if you're coming from a similar background to me, my parents are from Jamaica. They want 9 nights. That's 9 nights where you're feeding them. That's not cucumber sandwiches and cup of tea. It's big food. Oxtail, rice and peas and curry goat and two big bottles of brandy, right, white rum and all kind of stuff. Sound system, all of this. That costs money.
Yes,
that costs money. But people want these things but don't have the money. So what I would say to people in terms of, as a financial educator, just get your things in order. Take out life insurance. Now, sis was saying about GoFundMe. I've got a different take on GoFundMe. So argument say if you had like a child and your child got killed unfortunately, and you hadn't prepared for that, GoFundMe is something that's good. But if you're a tough old hardback person, yeah, and you haven't got life insurance, then you've got an argument. Because life insurance doesn't cost a lot of money. It costs about what, between 15 and 20, and could even 15 and 50 pound argument say, less than £100. And you're trying to say that you can't find £100 in your budget, yeah, to ensure that you can inject wealth into your family, because life insurance is the easiest way of injecting wealth into your family. And these are the concepts that are not taught to our community. So when I speak to people in our community saying that, yeah, you can only earn 15 grand a year, but you can inject $500,000 into your family. And if you're smart and show your family how to manage that $500,000, that family could come together, invest, flip that into 2 million. Yeah, so that you can live in the area. Your children can live in the area that you're living in and don't have to move out because there's an asset there. Also, not even just life insurance, having things like the wills, having things that you put in your assets in trust, so you don't have to sell grandma's house. Yeah. A lot of times we don't talk about inheritance tax and how that affects us, because if the HMRC wants the inheritance money up front, not in installments, they want it in one lump sum. If your parents has worked all those years trying and accumulate all these assets and they're hoping to leave it to you, if they haven't put their affairs in order, they're going to leave you with an inheritance tax bill. So now you're thinking, okay, where am I going to find £100,000 to pay off this inheritance tax bill? I'm going to have to sell the house. And then when you sell the house, then there's another argument about who gets the money from the house. And that causes problem. So all these things we have to put in place. And even though the information is freely out there, some people don't want to come. I do free presentations all the time. And I do it specifically to my black folks, because I'm like, listen, I'm tired of going into various circles and I'm talking to people like, yeah, this is standard. We know this for a long time. But why don't we know this? We work hard for our assets and accumulate and put down money and put things aside for our children. Why are we losing it as soon as somebody passes away? And then even coming to use this about asking for discount. No, discount out the money. Yeah? Discount it out. Yeah? Because if you haven't put things in place, you're going to have to pay. Even these things that we have to put in place. If you, like, for example, I know when I pass away, I want a big bathroom. I want bouncy castle. I want sound system. I want all of that. But I know I can't leave that burden to my family. I need to have a life insurance policy in place so that when I pass away, my family knows, listen, I don't nobody in black. Everybody have fun, big sound system, bouncy castle for the children, everybody have fun. It's gonna cost money. That money is there, that's what it's allocated for. It just saves so much stress because
well, let me tell you what people are saying, because I'll go backwards and forwards to what people are saying. Well, Shauna Don Lewis says, what a thing, but because it's true, it's true. And Amina Taylor says, having said this, okay, let me find her point. Her point was, we're talking obviously about putting things in place and making a will. She says, but having said this, people feel to put a will in place is to tempt fate somehow.
Yeah,
right. I'll get back to that, because it seems like that I want to talk about omens and all the things that our people believe in. Brenda Llewellyn Duncan says, all good and well doing a will, but finding it when they have gone is an issue. Tell several people who has your will.
Yes, that's true.
I definitely know about that one. Keisha Davis says, I find that so weird when people say what Amina said about, basically it's gonna, if you make a will, then you might die afterwards. And then I remembered in the thread that I lost a couple of days ago, somebody had put in there that they feel that if they make a will, somebody's gonna kill them, so they can get, or the kids might do something to them so that they can get the money faster. Well,
you watch too much Hollywood. That's what it is. Watch too much Hollywood.
Yeah,
watch too much Hollywood.
Too much Hollywood. And
50 million.
Keisha Davis says, I find it so weird when people say that, Amina. Spoiler alert, we're all gonna die.
Yeah, that's guaranteed.
Normal right. It's so much worse when a will is not in place. The government will distribute your estate for you, which is not good. Definitely true. Jan Hogan, who's in Wales, she tunes in every week. She says, any recommendation for life insurance, which I know you're covering in a while. I've paid Avila, Avila, for years, but policy ends next year.
Yeah. So she's got a term cover. So there's two types of cover. There's term life cover and whole of life cover. So most people take out term cover because that one's more affordable depending on when you take it out. But I would say to people, you can have a whole of life cover that just covers your your funeral expenses, and then you have a life cover that covers, so you can have multiple ones. So this is what I do: sit down with families and looking at what is the best solution for you. And looking and then putting these things in place, because I know when people say, oh, if you take out these things, you might pass away. But think about it: if you're smoking, you're adding to your death. You can't be saying, oh, if I take out a will, I'm gonna die, but then you're smoking each day and eating rubbish. It don't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Yeah, and that's why I say to people that nonsense can't should stop, because it could be the case of where you haven't put certain things in place, you pass away, or the classic example where I tend to find when I do my things, where the woman leaves all the financial responsibility down to the man, and then they think that they've got life insurance, and then the partner passes away, the man passes away, and then the wife thinks, oh yeah, I'm going to get a payout. Didn't realize that the husband has cancelled that policy or 2-3
long
years
time
ago.
Long time.
And they're like, oh, I didn't know, because you left all the financial responsibility and my financially savvy sisters presentation. So I've had too much times where I'm sitting down in community system and said, I left it all to the man ups and left me now, and I have left with nothing. We need to stop that. We need to be very involved in our financial affairs as women. And then also putting things in place. We have to put it in place. We have to. And come away from that notion that, oh, if you take out a will or life insurance, you're going to pass away. No, if you have these things in place, you live your life. You live your life to the fullest. Don't worry about these things, because you only need it when you need it. Live your life to the fullest and live. And at least you know, if your eyes closed today, that whoever's left behind is going to be left in a better financial position than if you're no longer here now.
Stop being so superstitious.
Yeah,
nonsense being made here in the thread.
Sharon, can I just say though?
Emotional out of it. You can't be emotional about it.
You can't.
You have to deal with it, because it could be the case of you passing away, not covering your mortgage, having money to cover your mortgage. That means now your family's got to deal with the loss of you, not even the loss of your property. Now they got to lose the house. Then where are they going to go and live? And if you're with the council now, you're living in Tottenham now, they send you all the way up to Southend or some Solly Hollow place, and you're away from your support network. How is that going to affect you, and how's that going to affect your children dealing with trauma? As you're dealing with trauma because you've lost your partner, and then your family's dealing with the trauma because they lost their mother or father, and then all of this, no, we need to stop it. That's why we got high incidence of mental health issues, because no one is talking about these things, and these things I see all the time. We need to stop it and be. That's why when I do my presentation, I'm very raw, and I talk about my experience, and people are like, look, yes, it's true, because it happens. I've seen it with my own eyes. I see how that affects families.
Okay,
it's a serious situation.
Maxine?
Yeah, I was just saying, going back to the superstitious thing, just very, very quickly, this year, and not COVID, non-COVID, I think, and it's been so sad, because whether I'm a celebrant or a funeral director, I always talk to the client as though they're my own, I think I've done at least 5 funerals where mum's been between the age of 50 and 60, maybe 62. And the kids have been left, no partner. Black mothers, can't identify the cause of death, been with the coroners, died. All right, whether they've got something in place or not, I don't know, but very little money, and it's just the kids left behind. When we talk about superstition, none of us are exempt. And I think this is something that we have to grab a hold of, Those 3 score years and 10 are null and void. Every day that we live is an absolute blessing. Let me tell you that now, because I've seen it. I've buried them, young women in their coffins. People are no longer old and grey and bent over.
No.
So we need just to give God thanks. Forget the superstition nonsense, because we are not exempt. If you are born, as I tell them at the funerals, you'll do a couple of things. You'll pay tax. And you will die. Get with the program, and that is the reality. It's a win-win situation. If it's not for you, it's for your kids, it's for your family, it's for those that you're leaving behind.
Because life insurance is not for you, it's who you leave behind. So when I sit down with families, I'm saying to them, okay, your life insurance can cover a number of things. It can cover your mortgage. So if you pass away, your mortgage is paid off. It can clear your debts as well. You could leave a legacy for your family. So for example, you pass away and you might want to leave, argument's sake, 50 grand per child. That 50 grand being injected into the family, that could be a deposit for a home. And in your will, you can say that can only be used for a deposit from the home. Not to go Ibiza or Afro Nation and kick up in the sun. No, you have to use it for specific things. Then you can put like extra. So for example, if you've got children and unfortunately you and your partner go away and your children become orphaned, you can say whoever's looking after that child, which you specify in your will, has a portion of money to look after that child until their age of 18. And then when they're 18, they get that lump sum of money that you've left for them. These are the things you can put in place. But a lot of the time when we're speaking to our community, they don't want to deal with it. Oh, no, it's not for us. And they come to us later. So I have a lot of people that come to me and speak to me about life insurance, but they're in their later years. That's when it's more expensive. And then they're focusing on, the price. Oh, it's too expensive. When you look at how much it costs to arrange a funeral,
I'm telling you,
balance it up. So don't just look at the price, look at balance it up. And what people tends to do is, as soon as they get in financial difficulty, what do? Cancel their policy. And I'm telling people, do not do it. As somebody that does policies, do not do it. Go back to the person and say, you know what, times are tough. I need to reduce the premium down, so at least you've got cover. Because you know how much people that I've sat down with, they've cancelled their policy and then something happens. And it's not superstitious. That's how life is. That's how life happens. And I've seen it many times.
I've got a question for you from Keisha Davis. Question for the panel. Do you think this problem with reluctance to plan for our death is a generational thing or cultural, or even both?
Both.
Both. Yeah.
I mean, if I can say, Charmaine, you know your African studies. From me, just looking back, because I'm doing the death, religion, and culture, I'm embarking on this thing, And I hold up my hands and say I was one of those people that was far from who I am culturally, And looking back to death, and slavery and the mindset of the slave, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and that longing, reading books. You know, they said that you go to care homes in the deep south of America where black people were, like some 20 odd years ago, and they're just crying for the death. To be with the Lord, because He's going to take care. So it doesn't matter about tomorrow, because my life as a slave is so bad. I'm going to be with the Lord, and so He'll pay all the bills. Don't worry about it. And what they would do is they would hang things on the graves, hang trinkets and stuff on the graves for the spirit. You understand? So yeah, it most definitely is. And it's only because now we're more aware. I truly believe that some 10, 20 years from now, we will almost be at a level with the other communities. I really, really do, because we have people like yourself that are talking out. We have people, you know, you're coming to funeral directors like me that are dealing with people that have policies and saying, listen, get your house in order. Even I'm a minister, when I'm at the funerals, I'm telling them, listen, sort your legacy out.
Yeah. And we have to, like you said, you have to have these conversations all the time. And don't be scared to talk about money. People like with me going to my dad and asking him about life insurance, it felt weird because like me and my dad are like this. So that I know for a fact when that time comes, I'm going to be out for like 6 months. I know I'm preparing for that. Yeah. So I had to have that conversation, and it was like, it's like, oh, I don't want to talk about it because I know how you are and you get upset and stuff. I said, Dad, we're big people now. We need to look at these things. Because I know I'm the type of person in my family, everybody knows that I'm good with money, but I know if that time comes for mom and dad pass away, everybody's going to be looking to me like, yeah, Charmaine, what you can do? Because I'm the organizer of the family. But if there's nothing to organize, what are you supposed to do? And then that, unfortunately, everybody has that one person in the family who's like that. But then now you're left with that burden to make sure everything is done. Then you've got the peer pressure. Oh, but Miss Power would like this, and Miss Marta would like this, and Uncle Barry would like this. And then they expect you to find this money for this big elaborate funeral, but then you don't have the money. And then there's a concept of funeral poverty where you have gone into debt because you're trying to meet the cost of your loved one. And a lot of people go through this. Or if you don't have the money, you get the public assistance burial where they both bury you. When I tell people about that, they're looking at me, no, son, we don't want that. But then if you don't want that, you better put something in place. Don't be waiting for your family member, because if your child with 4 children trying to barely pay a mortgage in this period of time, you're going to have to leave her with that burden. That could throw them off the edge. No, put something in place. Even if it's just to cover the funeral costs. You really
Charmaine, so go back a little bit. So we know all the things that they don't do. What's RPA, by the way?
Law of power of attorney.
Oh, okay, because
that is another thing that we don't talk about as well. So, for example, I had to take that out with my sister. So my sister has mental health issues and mobility issues, and I know that there might be a time when she can't manage her affairs for herself, so I can step in and manage her affairs for her. So a lot of us think that when, for example, if mom and dad gets unable to manage their finances, we can jump in. No, unless they've given you legal permission to do that, you can't do that. Then it gets passed to the government, and then the government has to sort out your affairs. Government can't even sort out their affairs. So why are you letting them sort out my affairs?
My affairs, exactly.
You have this,
but that also brings problems, Charmaine. That also brings problems. You see, there's an emotional attachment with everything.
Yes.
Because when you've got 3 or 4 kids and you're saying, you know what, I'm going to let Debbie do it. Debbie, you take up on my affairs. I can't. I trust this one. That in itself. That in itself, and it builds up to the time of death.
Yeah.
But power of attorney is something, you know.
All of these things in place. I had to do it for my sister because I went to somebody and they were telling me one price. I said, no, let me see if I can do it. And then and all it is a completing a form, you get them to sign it, send it off, and it gets sent it back, and it's done. And at least I know that is done there. If anything happens to my sister, I can sit down, I can actually deal with her affairs because she's a single person. So these things, putting all these things in place, but we can't blame us in the community, because remember, we were taught to go to school, get a job and work. And we're just surviving every day, doing all these things. Who's got time to go to webinars and things like that, or presentations to learn about this, when you're just trying to pick up your children from school, feed them, put them in their bed, you go and clean up your house and do what you're doing and go to school, and it's a rat race. So this is one of the reasons why I do my presentations on a regular basis, because even if I capture somebody at different times, at least I capture and you give that information. And then I say to people, don't just take the information, take action. So everybody should be organized, having what they call it an estate plan. It's a plan of action. So it includes your will, your wills, inheritance tax, life insurance, all of these things in place. Even like you said, the teapot. You might not see that as something valuable, but that's a family heirloom. Who does that get passed on to? My clothing, even your digital assets. Who has access to you? For example, you might have a huge collection of music online. Who gets access to all those digital assets? Your Facebook passwords and all of these things. All of these things we need to be thinking about. Yeah, all of that, because all that's your data. All of these
But
things.
what we do have doulas now, yeah? If I can just interject there, if you don't mind, Sherry.
No,
So what we do have now, and I think it's like an American concept, but what we have them now, we have death doulas. So like how you have birth doulas, midwives that bring you in, death doulas take you out. And that can be at any age of your life. And they prepare those packages for you. And I mean, that's including your whole funeral. You know, what am I going to wear? What do I want? Burial or cremation? You know, what songs? And with your life policies, how's my money going to be spent? Death doulas, that's what they do.
Yeah.
Lead you to your death.
And even having those conversations, what are your wishes? Do you want to be buried, cremated? What do you want to do? You want to be casket? My dad makes me laugh because when I was talking to him, he's like, no, Charmaine, not no big funeral. Just throw me down the gully. I said, Dad, there's no gullies in Wembley. I can't be trolling you down the gully. What am I going to do? Put you in the Union Canal? I can't throw you down the gully. I was like, what do you
in the back garden?
I don't want no big funeral. He just wants a basic funeral.
There's an interesting point by Westberg. She says, so interesting to listen. Back home in Sweden, we have a phenomenon called death cleaning. I can't pronounce the proper word that she said there, the correct word, I mean, death cleaning, which more or less means we declutter, downsize, and organize to make it easier for us. And most of all, those who will be left after we leave this life, you know, declutter and make it easier for them. There's even a book written about it, and that seems that makes a lot of sense. And although I'm talking about other people, I'm sure my sisters will be like, fix your face, because have you noticed I'm watching you lot and I'm thinking, what are they talking about? Because as much as I've got one or two of those things, which is the death money or the life insurance, I call it death insurance, but it's not. It's life insurance. I've done that, and I've sorted that out. But there are other things that you're talking about that I haven't put in place, like having the power of attorney, because I have two children. Before you know, they start arguing about. No, she never said that. No, this. If you have a death of a power of attorney. I think that makes it quite clear, because you're talking to that person about what you want, and then you put it on paper as well. I think a lot of people are going to be talking to you, Charmaine, because I might be one of them, because there's so many things to think about. A lot of people say when they die, well, the house will just be split amounts to two children, but who's going to sell the house, and who's going to take care of outstanding bills and all those things, because it goes to it comes in the name of what's the word they call it?
Beneficiaries.
Beneficiaries.
You still got to pay off the bills that you owe, just because they don't mean that the bills go away. And so I think it's really, really important to stop worrying about the two earrings. Obviously, that's important, but there's a bigger picture to this. The picture is to have it down in writing, and also not just having it down in writing. What about updating it every year?
You can do.
And even like with life insurance, I say to people's like, oh, Charmaine, but I got a life insurance. I said, when was the last time you reviewed it? Because when I say to people, when was the last time you read it? They're like, oh, I haven't read it. And then I say, okay, go and get your paperwork. Then they can't even find the policy paperwork. Then they have to get the policy paperwork. And then like, oh, it expired 2 years ago, because you've taken it out, fling the envelope in the corner and forgotten about it. Review these things each year, because you might have taken out insurance when you didn't have a mortgage, you didn't have children, you didn't have debts and things in place. You might didn't have nieces or nephews at that time. You might say, you know what, I'm going to leave my assets to my nieces and nephews, or leave a portion of money so that when my niece and nephew gets of age, they've got some money to go to university, or to cover their education, to cover they even set up a business, all of these things. There's people like Master P, who's a rapper from America. His grandfather left him £100,000 lump sum of money in his life insurance. He had an accident at work and he died, and he left it £100,000. Master P took that £100,000 and turned that into an empire. So Master P is owning sports clubs, sports teams, multiple businesses, music empire. That's intergenerational wealth. And this is the presentation I'm talking about. Generational wealth. This is the conversation that we should be having. All of that. Generational wealth. Even like writing down grandma's recipe for that wicked cake. That is generational wealth. That should be written down somewhere and passed on. Even if it's down to the family Dutch pot, that could be passed on in your will. All of these things, like family heirlooms and family stories and things like that, we need to be thinking about how do we pass on that to the next generation. It's very important, because even like with my grandfather, when he passed away, I wish if I knew what I knew now, I would have recorded some of those conversations that I had with him, talking about those things. But you don't know until that person passed away. There's conversations, his life experiences, things, cousins and names that he's gone to his grave now. We don't know these people. We're missing out on these assets. We are missing out big time. And we have to bring back the family and start communicating as a family. That is the biggest. We do communication as a family.
Fee says, also remember to update letter of intent for deferred pension benefits.
Yes.
I don't understand that one.
So your pension is an asset that is an asset as well. So if you pass away and you've got pension due to you, you can store. That's a part of your assets. That's part of your.
That's private pension.
Yeah. So private, but that's part of So for example, if you've got a pension and you're due to get lump sum, that's all part of your estate. How do you want that to be distributed as well?
Yeah, because sometimes they don't tell people, and then suddenly it just stops, doesn't it? They don't tell people.
Yeah.
Charmaine, Norma says, Charmaine, now this is legacy planning. Even the Dutch pot is a heirloom.
Yeah, of course. I wish I took my grandma's one, because listen, that's been seasoned. That kept us alive.
Ladies, I want you to understand this conversation. People are saying it's such a great conversation. I was a bit worried about it, because especially when Facebook took down my thread, I was like, the old, omen, how you're used to thinking. Right? But I am so pleased that I'm doing it. There is so much more that we need to know, especially about our assets. I know, obviously, we need to know about when the person dies, what to do, but maybe we can come back to that and tell us a little bit more. You can tell us a little bit more about when, people don't know what to do. What do you do? As soon as somebody dies, you start, apart from screaming and hollering, you have to get yourself in order, don't you?
Well, I hold death workshops. Can we talk about death? Yeah, I'll be doing one in a couple of weeks, a Zoom one. This time on a Saturday.
Can you tell them about
Can we talk about death? And it takes us from what do you do when someone dies, registering the death. How soon do I have to register this death? What happens if I don't register the death? What if the person dies at home? What if they die in hospital? What if I want to open up the grave that I already own? Why are you charging me £2,000? That kind of thing. So it will cover all of that. There is loads in the death argument, But what I would say in terms of life policies, in terms of structure, today is the day. If you are not already, if you don't already have something in place. We have seen what COVID has done.
Yes. Big time.
My first COVID girl, I think she was 24.
Yeah.
Girl had pain in her stomach and went to the hospital and dropped dead. The mum wanted to sue the hospital because she couldn't understand what's going on. This was February. We don't know what's going on. My daughter's dead. What the hell's going on? They had to do a GoFundMe for that. She was 24,
Yeah.
And that was COVID.
Yeah.
And I've seen them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've just seen them, buried them. COVID, nothing in place. And one of the things with death, if I can just draw it back, 20 years ago when my mum died, my mum had a co-op book, a little red book. And East London, they used to say the co-ops, because they couldn't say the co-op, yeah? And Mum had her book, and I think when Mum died, they paid out £3,500, and that got Mum a casket, 6 limousines, the hole in the ground, the whole lot. That was 20 years ago, 2000. You're looking at 10 grand now, even maybe even a bit more, yeah? But 20 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, when Mum, you would have dreamt of cremation.
Yes.
You wouldn't have dreamt of cremating black people. We're not
Black people doing cremation.
Fry the dead. Yeah, that wasn't our thing, because you can't. How can you be raised from the dead if you've been cremated and you're hushes? You know. And I say to them, well, if God made the heaven and earth in X amount of days, I'm sure He can flare His nostrils and raise you up again. But nevertheless, now, black people, I'm seeing young, old, children, they are cremating. Why? Number one, because they don't have anything in place. Number two, because it's much cheaper. Yeah. When you look at £5,000 for a plot of land over the City of London, for cremation, you're looking at some places for £400 if you get cremated before 10 o'clock, and that is the difference in price.
Yeah.
So you know now it's okay.
Say that again.
Well, depending on where you live, depending on where you live and your method, all right. So you have different methods of cremation. You might have a direct cremation where there's no attendees. You can have that done for £300, yeah? No attendees, no ceremony. You run the mill cremation, early morning cremation, some parts of London for £500, yeah? Proper ceremony, but say before 10 o'clock. Then you've got your later on, your average £800-900 proper cremation. Whereas if you go to the City of London Cemetery, where you paid £925 for your cremation, you're paying £5,000, £5,047 for a grave. City of London, which is the biggest in London.
And I'm glad you said that. And I'm glad you're talking.
We've got people on here from the Caribbean, right? And I don't know, maybe one of them could answer it. I don't hear them talk so much about cremations here.
No.
So you have
even when I talk to my mom, she's like, no, sir. No, I don't want it.
Fire.
Yeah, no, don't put flaming on the fire. No, no. I've probably been to, if I've gone to a cremation, it's not from the Caribbean community. No. Definitely not.
It's really, really funny you should say that, because even before I got into funerals, I've been to hundreds of funerals. I mean, I've been going to funerals since I was 6. Yeah. In my little write-up, my first body was my cousin Leroy, who was only 7. Laid out in front of me in his little grey suit. So I've been going to funerals years and years and years. And it was really, really strange when I became a celebrant. And I went into one of the offices, and the body was there, and I said, let's have a look. I've never seen a white body, and it was really strange. It had never occurred to me that I'd never seen a white body before. But they push towards cremation. They're more practical in their approach. Me personally, I'd go for cremation over a burial any day. And I've said that to my family, cremate me, I don't want you feeling guilty about not going up the cemetery. I don't want you spending your electric key money on flowers for me. And 50, 60 years from now, the grave that we lease, that we don't own, when they're pulling me out of it and building something on top of it, I don't want no headaches. So just bond me under one and one, or throw the ashes. You know, that is my, I can't be doing it. When I'm dead, I'm dead.
Yeah.
Right. And if that's wants to raise me, he will.
Yeah, and I've had people say that when they buy like a family plot, you can put like 6 people in one plot, and they're like, oh, why am I spending all that money? But at least it's economically. If you don't want to be cremated, you get a family plot. Yeah, and that will work out much cheaper. But the thing is, when you're having these conversations, when I talk about it, people like sometimes they don't want to deal with it. They bury their head, or I always get people saying, you know what, I want to speak to this about my parents, but I don't know how to approach it. I said, you don't have to do it. Bring them in front of me. When I'm doing a presentation, bring them there so they can listen. So I can speak to them, and then you just look at them and go, yeah, we need to sort that out. Yeah, it might be an easy way of brokering that conversation. But if you go to your mum like saying, oh, yes, right, have you got life insurance? They're probably thinking, well, they're trying to kill me off. Depending on the relationship that you have with the person. Remember, you might not have spoken to your mum for like or a year and 6 months, and then you find out talking about, oh, you got life insurance policy? They're going to be thinking, what's going on? That's where they get their backs up. Yeah, but if you're having conversations, but having big people conversation, looking at, you know what, we want to change the we want to change the trajectory of our family. We want to stop the intergenerational poverty that we see. We want to make a change. So the next generation coming up afterwards are not going to have these issues that we've seen from previous generations. What can we do with our family? What can we do? Put things in place and making sure everybody, as soon as they're 18, have life insurance. Start putting saving your money for your retirement fund from the age of 18. Yeah, so you can retire when you want to, and not having to work till you're like 85 and then decide that you haven't got any money. I want to be like Sherry, where I can say, right, child, fed up at England, let me go and sit down in the sun. That's the plans. That's the goal.
Yeah.
Actually enjoy your life.
Okay, there's issues there in doing that, because then you might say you want to buy a house in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Caribbean, depends on where you are, how you want to say it. But then there's different laws in different countries, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, because you've heard it happen where they've gone home and they've built their house and they haven't put a will in place in that country.
Yeah.
Or the father dies and the mother is alive and they haven't made a will, and then it goes into testate because he hasn't left a will leaving the money to the mother, or vice versa. And so in the end, the government is entitled to that half. Whoever died, the government's entitled to that half. And the person is forced to sell their house or take out a loan or remortgage to pay back the government. You've got to really think your things out. I mean, I know that happened to my grandparents. My grandmother just thought, well, it was my husband. He died, and he's left me. It's left to me. But when we went to sell the house, it wasn't like that. His part was intestate, and then a big drama happened after that. But these are things that you do have to. I mean, I'm glad that I've opened the door to that subject, because we've had quite a lot of people on here. Jan Hogan says, I'm 57. I don't have a will. It's always on my to-do list because I'm separated and not divorced. I have property, pension, life insurance, but don't have a death or stroke funeral plan. Need to sort this out for my girls now. Appreciate this discussion so much. Thank you.
Yeah, and you need to have it in place, because you don't want to work so hard and it still goes to your partner. Because if you're legally married, he can still get access to that.
That's the thing. I've been telling somebody I know, that's the thing. If you're legally married, although you're separated, if there's not something placed on the house, I don't know what it's called, but you have to put something on the house to say, before the divorce happens, that basically that money that you want it to go to your children, that he's not entitled to it. You have to think about all these things and stop having the stories. Otherwise, I'll be having this program in 21, 22, and 23. Because we need to talk to an advisor. So ladies, let me come back. Not to Charmaine, sorry, my brain's just suddenly gone dead. What's going on? I think I'm so interested in this conversation, Maxine.
It's engrossing, it's intriguing, isn't it?
It is. But Maxine, just if you've got something you want to say, because I know that you were reading up something before. Do you have anything, your last bit of advice, because we're on the hour?
No, I just want our people. I mean, something like this is a fantastic forum, and you know, well done, Sherry, and well done, Charmaine, because we do need educating, and what I'm finding, even though with all the education that we're getting, we still have that unhealthy relationship. So I think it's something whereby we need to delve even deeper into ourselves as a people. Someone asked the question about cultural learned behaviors, learned habits. And you can look at stuff objectively, but then you can delve even deeper and say, you know what, there is a reason. There's always a reason, you know, and our people have been through so much. Let's hold up our hands. That first generation, that Windrush generation, the vast majority had their little book in order. I think what they didn't have in order was their attitude. Does that make sense? It was their attitude and the way that they dealt with it, you know, and the relationships that they had with their kids. But they had their little books in order. I just think that what we need to do is we need to start thinking of death as something that's going to, like, rain, go away, come again another day. Death is real. Death is really, really real, and we shouldn't fear it. Yeah, and I understand, you know, the not wanting to die or not wanting to be here. I understand all of that, you know, it's human nature. But the reality is, these are things that we have got to get together, and I would advise anyone to just sit in on one of Charmaine's workshops in terms of, because what we have is getting your house in order, number one, but also progressing your house and building houses and building legacies. And that's what we need to be looking at now. And now is the time. So I just want to encourage the people that are listening, forget about obia and all of that and mysticism and all of that. You know, from when you wake up in the morning, there's no guarantee that you're going to go to bed that night.
Yeah, or when you go to bed that you're going to get up the next morning. I know somebody that's happened to.
Lots of people.
Charmaine, what would be your...
So I would say to everybody that we are very abundant people, but we need to stop procrastinating and take action. Because every time you're thinking, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it, and you don't get it done, it can cost more money. But I would say to people, if you need any support in terms of financial planning, looking at anything such as wills, trusts, and all that kind of area, financial planning, just in general, get in contact with me. You can go to my website, charmainesimpson.com. My events, on the events page, you can see all the events that I've got coming up. You want a financial planning session, there's a form that you complete. So the financial planning process that I do is free. The only thing it's going to cost you is your time to sit down with myself via Zoom, to sit down, gather some information from you to put together your financial plan so that we can look at what solutions is right for you. Yeah. So if you want to get in contact with me, go to my website, my number's there, all my information's there, fill out the form, get in contact with me, and then we can book an appointment just to sit down and work out your finances as well. And I would encourage you, if you've got children or younger people in your family, speak to them about what we've been discussing today, but they need to have their things in place. And things like life insurance, the younger you sort it out, the more the terms are better. If you haven't got any health issues, the terms are better. All of these things come into play. So I'd rather you get it sorted at a younger age. But even if you're in your later age, still get it sorted out. We'll work out solutions for you. But just do it. Do not wait until it's a case of, oh my gosh, I should have done it before. Yeah, just do it now. So get in contact with me. We'll book an appointment and we'll get that done as well.
You can put it when you finish, both of you.
Yeah, I'll put it into
thread and you go.
Yeah.
Who's got a friend called Marcy? She's trying to get in, and I haven't been letting her in. I've been deleting her.
Is it Marcy or Marcy?
Is it Marcy Yusuf?
Just says Marcy.
I know she didn't name Marcy, so it might be her. I don't know.
Anyway, I haven't let people in because I think it was more important for you to talk about stuff rather than having other people tell their stories. They can go in the thread and tell their stories. And because when you actually tell your story, or maybe stuff that's happened, I mean, especially when it comes to funerals, it's devastating. A lady told me about that funeral where they dropped, I think you also mentioned it, Maxine, where they dropped the coffin, two guys, the sides of the family to have a fight.
All about money.
Always about money.
Always. I mean, I've had loads of fights at funerals, don't get me wrong, but the money fights have been awful.
Yes.
People fight different things, black people, white people, they argue about nonsense, but for money, when there's been a battle in getting information from both sides, getting money out, and then they want to come and fight and take over the funeral, that is their priority.
And the school settled at the funeral, and remember, our children are watching this. And they're watching that behavior, and then you can't turn around and say, oh, young people, you should be acting like this when you're acting like this in that emotional state. You have to stop it. Remember, we want to see.
The problem with the children is that the children are in their 30s. They're in their 20s and 30s, and then you've got their children underneath.
The family, just because you wouldn't sort out your own things, the families for generations that follow after that, they're not united. There's big old dirty arguments, and in some cases murder. I was reading one today where people spent their lifetime trying to still get to the other person, I had to do this. I know I had to do this because I listened to the stories and I read the stories, obviously. And even as a journalist, sometimes people send you things that they think that you should discuss. And I'm glad for the person who sent me this, I'm glad I did it. If it's something that you guys want me to come, because obviously this is the end of, is it the end? 2020. I said the end, and people start saying it's not the end yet, it's only October. But you know, we've written off 2020. But I think this is one of the subjects that I will definitely come back to in 2021, because we have to get ourselves in order. And I say including me. There's nothing written. Everybody knows a little bit of something, you know.
And even Marcia, when you're doing your event, let me know so I can tell the people to come, because it would be good even inviting you to coming on to one of my events. So instead of they listening to me, listening to you, because you actually deal with that. And can help people. It's needed. We have to have, really, and we have to have some of these harsh. I like to talk about subjects that people don't want to talk about, the taboo subjects. You must start talking about these things because it makes it life easier. And there's a lot of us, when we even mention this subject, it opens out so much discussion and people are just waiting to have that conversation. But if there's no forum in place to have these conversations, people they just keep it all to themselves. This is why it's so powerful that you've done this event today, Sherry, because it's needed. It is so needed. And don't feel anyway. And I know some people, don't want to talk about death. We have to start talking about these things. Because there's nobody listening to this live today that hasn't been affected by death.
Yes.
Even if it's a person, the dog, the spider, somebody's spirit's death at some stage in their life. Yeah, exactly. We need to be having these conversations, because we have to start dealing with how does this affect us? Trauma, not speaking about money, not being comfortable with money. Because a lot of us have money and we think that we don't have money, but we do, because we don't know how we're managing our money. Yeah. But it's so easy to make your money grow if you know what to do. So like I said, knowledge is power.
At least take out a real number one is important, and to take out an insurance that covers at least your death. And don't start putting on there, my final point on that, don't start asking the people, well, if it's somebody like me, my children always, or my cousin always says, well, Lord Jesus, we'll have to hire out Hammersmith Palais. And I'm saying, well, I don't know so much now because COVID's coming and we can't do anything. And although I don't plan to go right now, it's still gonna be, you know, it'll be a cut down thing. She says, because even in life, your parties are so big. So, you know, because you're well known. But even that, you're gonna have a tea party with some just patties, maybe just patties and a drink is enough.
It's still going to cost.
It's going to cost, especially the cocktail ones. 70p each. I know it is, but but a lot of people want to feed the thousands, but then when everybody's full up their belly and go about their business, you're left with that bill. How are you supposed to pay off that bill? If you're taking out a £40,000 loan just to bury your loved one, you're going to have to pay it. And then, for example, at this moment in time where COVID is coming in, you lose your job, you've still got this debt, what are you supposed to do? So it just adds a lot of anxiety, and a lot of people are going through that at this moment.
But can I just also add something that is really, really important in terms of funeral poverty? When my mother died, you could pay the bill after. I remember mum died, you got everything, and then 30 days later, you got the invoice, you paid the bill. Now, every penny not every penny, you need to at least pay the costs up front. It depends on where you go, you need, and there is no one is going to say to you, all right, pay us after.
No.
You have got to pay for the whole to be open. No funeral director is going to do that. You've got to pay for your coffin. You've got to pay for your hearse. If you've got a minister, you've got to pay for your minister. You understand? You're going to need a good couple of £1,000 up front. If you go to a particular firm, which I'm not going to mention on here, they'll say pay the cost and pay our fee, 1,890 after. If you don't pay that fee, 28 days of bailiffs are knocking on your doors. The collectors are on your doors in debt. So you need something, even if you go to the DWP, and even then, DWP are not paying like they were paying before.
No.
Even if you meet the criteria, because they're saying, some of it's been paid, and we don't care how you found that money. You know, I've seen someone who has had to sell their car.
Yeah.
She sold her car to pay for her mother's funeral.
Yeah.
Totally unexpected because her mother was her carer. Yeah. And then the co-op had the bailiffs round Christmas, probably 10 days after Christmas, 28 days. The bailiffs were knocking on her door. So you need something. You need something. No one's going to do it for nothing.
Yeah, and imagine now you're dealing with emotional stress. Now you've got bailiffs knocking on your door.
Yeah, to pay for funeral.
Enough stress.
Why
we've got
do
enough
that?
stress in our life.
Yeah, why do that for 20 quid a month?
Yeah, exactly.
And you could do that for 20 quid a month.
Yeah.
Ladies, promise me that when I decide to do this again in 2020, I mean, I really loved your interaction. I really did. I loved how we were. And I want to bring it back because I think although I'll share this everywhere, and people, I'm talking to you wherever you are, where's the camera? Straight in front of me. Could you share this? If everybody shares this into a group that they know, then somebody somewhere will learn. And, you know I would like them to get in touch with Charmaine, and I'd like them to get in touch with Maxine.
But they die. Well, yeah, I do funeral plans as well, but I mean, really and truly, if you know someone who dies, and
and people are always asking me about funeral directors from our community because we want to buy black now, so we want to support our own.
Charmaine, don't even start me off there because that's another book that I'm writing on the pain that I felt as a black woman.
It's the attitude when you come to you as well. Yeah, all of that needs to discuss as well.
Guys, when you guys are doing stuff, make sure that you send it to me so that I can share it to the group that I know. Ladies, thank you so much for today.
Thank you.
My heart feels a bit lighter because it was a bit of a heavy subject, but I too will come to you because I need to. Well, I'm not sure about going to Maxine, but I'm coming to you, Charmaine. I need to get my house in order.
Yeah.
Maxine, I'll see you at the other end. All right?
Yeah.
Thank you, ladies. It's been wonderful.
It's been wonderful, nice, and this is what I love doing. This is making these connections. Well, Maxine, we definitely have to support you, definitely.
Yes, and we will. Yeah,
we definitely.
And this is it. Teamwork. We're going forwards.
Yes,
I'm talking to the community. We're going forward. Forget the past. We're going forward. All right. Be encouraged.
Yeah. You have a good day. Have a really good day.
And you take care.
Bless you. Bye. Bye. Bye.